It's obvious now, after the Spurs made the huge move for De'Aaron Fox and he's finally ready to play, there are multiple moves that are still likely to come, including trading for a backup center with multiple names being mentioned, including Jonas Valanciunas and Jakob Poeltl, a familiar face, but not just that. The Spurs are also looking into a 3 and D wing, and one certain player fits that bill better than most. We got to talk about all of the moves that the Spurs are likely to make coming up at this deadline on this episode of Spurs Digest. But guys, again, got to remind you, we are super close to that 5,000 subscriber mark. Maybe we've passed it by the time you're watching this, but probably not. And if you enjoy the daily, sometimes multiple times a day Spurs updates, this is your spot to be. It's completely free to hit the button down below. Let's get right into the video. And I want to start, this comes from, well, my own thoughts, a lot of your thoughts, but also an Air Alamo article saying the Spurs have two obvious next moves after trading for De'Aaron Fox. And looking through the roster, that's absolutely true, right? One of the big pieces going out, well, big pieces in terms of size, I suppose, going out was Zach Collins, and not great contract, but that left the Spurs center depth a little bit thin. So the first thing they mentioned is adding a backup center is one of the main things the Spurs should do. Now, I mentioned this in the De'Aaron Fox trade video. Keenan and Brian, I'm sure, mentioned this. We've been talking about it. As you can see here in this article, that I will link down below, as always, as De'Aaron Fox looks to make a move to South Texas in short order, well, he's here now, begin to think about what the next logical steps to success would be for this team. After all, the organization has perfectly followed a carefully constructed plan to this point to ensure Wembanyama's talent is not wasted, and they are not going to stop focusing now. Very true. Now, when it comes to adding a backup center, there are a few names that have been made available at this trade deadline, and the first one I want to talk about is our boy JV. I've talked about him before, but let's look at his stats. So JV this year, he's actually on a really friendly contract, only $10 million per year, and I think there's another 1 or 2 years after this year on the contract. Now, to be fair, he's been garnering interest from a lot of teams, and as of the recording of this video, just about an hour ago, so this is probably coming out later in the day, but still, very recently, the Lakers were reported to have interest in our guy JV, so he could be on his way there. The contract is fairly easy to fit even into a contending team, but he's very good, and I have been vocal before about saying that I think JV is a very good stylistic fit for the San Antonio Spurs. He's a big guy, 6'11", he can bang down low, he can even shoot the mid, sometimes stretch out to 3, though his 3-point percentage is not great this year. He's not really a rim protector, but that's not what you need him to be. I think he just fits very well, good rebounder, can score in the post, can be an offensive threat down low, which is something that none of the Spurs bigs right now have as a strength, I would say, right? Not really Bassey, and Sandro is more of a stretch big, so JV can kind of do a bit of everything, and I think he's very interesting. But there's another name out there around this trade deadline. He's a bit more expensive. I think he's making $19 million, and that's a familiar face in Jakob Poeltl. Now, to be fair, the Raptors' asking price is quite high for him, and once again, the Lakers, because of course they are inquiring about Poeltl as well. But in a recent article for Sportsnet, Michael Grange, who's one of the top Raptors reporters, was talking about the Raptors' asking price for Poeltl and whether the Lakers could get him, and they said, the Lakers know it'd be hard, not impossible to get him, but it'd be tough, because the sense is that the Raptors are holding out for an offer that would include a first-round pick, likely with a certain level of protection, and the only one the Lakers have left to offer is a 2031 first they've been clutching tightly for years. Great. I hope the Lakers don't make this trade. No one wants the Lakers to get Jakob Poeltl. The Spurs and the Raptors have had good trade relations in the past. Jakob Poeltl has snip, snap between the two teams. But he's a very good player. I mean, as we all know, not JV, our boy Jakob, averaging 14 and 10, making under $20 million, and my gosh, would he ever fit well. The dude is averaging 1.2 steals, 1.3 blocks a game. He doesn't shoot the 3, but he can score down low. Most of his shots are assisted, 73%, but honestly, for a center, that's not horrible. The dude can score on his own down in the post if he needs to, and he's a solid rim protector, very solid defender, double-double machine. He has been unbelievable, and the Spurs do have a first-round pick they could give for him. Now, I'm not necessarily saying it's a good idea to go all out now and give up all of our firsts in this year to go get these players. We had 4 of them shipped out in the De'Aaron Fox trade. This would certainly involve another one, but the good thing is, I really don't think the Raptors would ask for any, actual good Spurs prospects in a trade for Jakob Poeltl. I think a decent first-round pick would do it. Now, the Spurs could dangle their own first-round pick this year, assuming that Jakob Poeltl and De'Aaron Fox turns them into more of a contender. That's definitely there's a world where they could do that, and they predict the Hawks will fall off even more. This could make a lot of sense. But the Spurs also have a plethora of picks down the road. Maybe in 2030, they decide to give their own pick. I think we still have our own pick that year. Not totally sure. Double check that for me. But we also have the Mavericks pick in 2030, which is looking like it could very well be a good pick. So there's a lot of room to move more first-round picks for the Spurs without really sacrificing our future draft capital. Is it worth it this year? I'm not totally sure, but I'm all for it. Like, if we can get a caliber of player like a JV, like a Jakob Poeltl, even for now, I think Poeltl actually fits better because, again, I just pop him back up. He's a lot younger. He's 29 versus JV, who is almost 33. So it makes more sense in terms of the timeline, makes more sense in a lot of ways. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about those guys down below. Which one of those two would you rather? Neither. Is there another name you're thinking of? But I'm not done with this video for right now because we also got to talk about the wing. And there's one name I've seen a lot of you guys talking about in the comment section down below. And, well, I'll get to it in a second. But they say a 3-and-D wing. The second most obvious move for the Spurs to make, a high-level 3-and-D wing. If you have Wemby, you have Fox, the final move you want to make is really get this team to a level that will scare the opposition, is to acquire a wing that can space the floor with shooting power, with strong defensive capability, and being able to switch onto multiple positions. Now, I will be honest, the guy that I'm bringing up is not necessarily known for his defense. I feel like the idea of him is more defensive than he actually is, but I'll bring him up anyway. That's Cam Johnson. Now, you guys have been sending his name in the comment section in every single video saying, yes, go get him. Every time we've made a trade video talking about Cam Johnson, you guys have said that's a great idea. I mean, it makes sense on paper. The dude's shooting 42% from three. And 58% of all his shots are threes, 49 from the field. He's having a really good season, averaging nearly 20 points a game. Let's pop him back up here. There he is. And averaging nearly 20 a game. And he's a big guy too. He's 6'8". He primarily plays the 3 or the 4. But from what I've seen from him, it's not crazy to say he can guard 2 through 4, right? He's big enough, he's strong enough that he could guard a 4, especially one that's maybe a bit more mobile. I will say I don't think he's the best defender in the world. Like, I don't think he's going to be out there clamping people. There's, like, clips of him getting his ankles broken. Those don't really mean much. But all in all, he's fine. Like, he's fine defensively, but he's definitely a very good shooter. And one thing is if you're getting traded to the Spurs and you're starting, you don't necessarily need to be the best defender to make your defense look good, right? As long as you're not getting blown by every single possession, you're probably okay, right? Because if a guy is ending up getting to the rim, if you have decent off-ball defense, which Cam Johnson, he's fine at that too. Again, not necessarily elite, but if you have good off-ball defense, you can hold your own because you know you have Wemby down low to help you. And if the Spurs get a decent backup big who can block shots, I mean, even right now, a guy like Bassey can block shots, right? You have that second line of defense behind you. And Cam Johnson is, I think, more than capable of playing on the perimeter and playing decent defense. So to me, it's not so much the defense for him, it's more the three-point shooting because we do have Harrison Barnes, but Barnes is a bit older, right, than Cam Johnson. He's declining year over year. He's been quite good, I must say, but in a sense, I'm just thinking, like, you take Harrison Barnes and you upgrade him a little bit, and that makes the Spurs even better. And again, like, Cam Johnson's not old at all. He's just almost 29 years old. So he would fit the timeline as well for the next few years. And I don't know what the asking price would be for Cam Johnson. I mean, there have been talks of, like, sending out one of, like, you know, maybe Keldon or maybe a pick. I don't think even Keldon. I mean, that might actually make some sense stylistically for the Spurs, sending Keldon Johnson for Cam Johnson. Don't know if the Nets would do that. But again, the Spurs have draft capital, a few seconds, plus some bench player. I don't know. Like, it depends on what the Nets are thinking because these trade packages so far this year have been absolutely nutty. I don't really know what to expect in one trade versus another, but let me know what you guys think about these three options: Poeltl, Valanciunas, Cam Johnson. Hopefully none of them have actually been moved by the time this video comes out, but if they have, hey, call me out down below. This is recorded about noon Eastern on February 5th. The trade deadline's coming. There's a lot of stuff coming. I want to hear from you guys down below. That'll do it for this episode of Spurs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, guys. We're pushing for that 5K. I know we can hit it soon. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for the support. I've been your host, Josh Gosse, and I'll catch you in the next one.